Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Doctors in Gaza say Israeli attacks have killed at least 72 people over the past 24 hours. Among the dead, 6 people killed by Israeli forces near an aid distribution point north of Rafah, operated by the militarized U.S.-Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Meanwhile, Gaza's health ministry reports some 17,000 Palestinian children are suffering from acute malnutrition and are at risk of death. This is Mohammed Tabasha, a doctor in Gaza City, who says Israel's blockade of humanitarian aid, including milk and infant formula, is causing babies to starve.
The lack of milk affects the baby's weight. The baby does not grow fast, and hunger may affect the immunity of the baby, whereby one could easily become infected. And if his immunity is not strengthened, we may lose some babies due to a lack of available milk, especially the specialized formula that is no longer available from the health ministry.
On Capitol Hill, senior intelligence officials held a classified briefing Thursday for all 100 senators about President Trump's airstrikes on Iran's nuclear sites. Notably absent from the briefing was Trump's director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who told Congress in March the intelligence community, quote, continues to assess Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, unquote. Last week, Gabbard walked back that assessment after Trump said she was wrong. Connecticut Democratic Senator Chris Murphy spoke to reporters after emerging from Thursday's closed-door briefing, warning Iran remains capable of rapidly producing a nuclear weapon.
You cannot bomb knowledge out of existence. No matter how many scientists you kill, there are still people in Iran who know how to work centrifuges. And if they still have enriched uranium and they still have the ability to use centrifuges, then you're not setting back the program by years. You're setting back the program by months. The only path forward is diplomacy.
On Thursday, the White House said U.S. diplomats had no plans to meet their Iranian counterparts, walking back Trump's claims a day earlier of a meeting scheduled for next week. The White House says it's reached an agreement with China to speed imports of rare earth elements as the Trump administration seeks to unwind its trade war with Beijing. Earlier today, China's Commerce Ministry confirmed it had agreed to the framework of a new deal that'll see the U.S. drop restrictive measures in exchange for access to minerals used in cars, semiconductors, and smartphones. Senate Republicans are scrambling to save President Trump's massive package of tax cuts for the wealthy and cuts to social programs dubbed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. On Thursday, the Senate parliamentarian ruled Republican efforts to change how states can tax Medicaid providers makes the legislation ineligible for passage by a simple majority. The ruling opens a door to a filibuster by Democrats. In a 6-3 ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court has sided with South Carolina to defund Planned Parenthood by removing its health clinics from the state's Medicaid program. Writing for the dissent, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said the ruling's, quote, likely to result in tangible harm to real people. She said, quote, it will strip those South Carolinians and countless other Medicaid recipients around the country of a deeply personal freedom, the ability to decide who treats us at our most vulnerable, unquote. We'll have more on this ruling after headlines. Separately, the Supreme Court stayed the execution of a condemned Texas prisoner Thursday, mere minutes before he was scheduled to die by lethal injection. Ruben Gutierrez insists he was wrongfully convicted of a 1998 murder in Brownsville, Texas. He'll now have a chance to obtain DNA testing that he says will prove his innocence. Advocates are condemning widespread racial profiling as Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, continues to carry out mass raids nationwide, with mounting cases of U.S. citizens being rounded up as well. In Los Angeles, the family of Andrea Velez, a U.S. citizen, described her arrest by ICE earlier this week as a kidnapping. Velez had just been dropped off at work by her mom and sister when the pair witnessed masked federal agents grabbing and taking Velez in an unmarked car during an immigration raid. One video shows a masked agent lifting Velez from the ground and carrying her away. Velez's sister, Estrella Rosa, spoke with CBS News Los Angeles.
They didn't have a vest that said ICE or anything. Their cars didn't have license plates. Just because of the color of our skin, they think that we're criminals. My sister was there, so they like, oh, like she looks Hispanic, so let's take her too.
Andrea Velez was released Thursday on bond, accused of attempting to prevent an ICE arrest. In a similar case, Andrew Martinez, a 20-year-old U.S. citizen from the Los Angeles area, has been released from federal detention after he was violently arrested in a Walmart parking lot last week. Martinez was taken when he approached a group of heavily armed and masked federal agents who were detaining a Latino janitor at the shopping center where Martinez worked at a local Walmart. The agents attacked Martinez, threw him to the ground, arrested him as they asked him for proof he was born in the United States. Martinez has since been fired by Walmart. His body's still covered in cuts and bruises. He's wearing a knee brace after being injured by agents in the attack. In California, a bill introduced by two Bay Area lawmakers would force ICE agents and other federal agents to show their faces and identify themselves while making arrests. New York Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez has introduced similar legislation on Capitol Hill. On Wednesday, Attorney General Pam Bondi told lawmakers she was unaware that ICE agents are using masks and hoods to obscure their identity during immigration raids. She was questioned by Michigan Democratic Senator Gary Peters.
They have to identify themselves as law enforcement. People think, here's a person coming up to me, not identified, covering themselves. They're kidnapping. They'll probably fight back. That endangers the officer as well. Someone's going to fight back if you just think a strange person with their face covered throwing you into a van. Most people will resist that.
It sounds like you have a specific case, and I would
be happy
to talk to you about that at a later time because I'm not aware of that happening.
In more immigration news, a federal judge granted a request from the Trump administration to force-feed an Iranian asylum seeker who's on hunger strike while detained at the Florence ICE jail in Arizona. Last month, Mirat Asadi Edavand was arrested by federal immigration agents outside his home in Phoenix. He's been on 2 hunger strikes since. In Florida, another person has been reported dead in the custody of ICE. Johnny Noviello, a 49-year-old citizen of Canada, was found unresponsible at the Bureau of Prisons Federal Detention Center in Miami Monday. Noviello is at least the 10th person to die in ICE custody this year. Last week, a 68-year-old Mexican immigrant died while being transported from a local Georgia jail to an ICE detention center. Abelardo Avellaneda Delgado is the first person to die under these circumstances in at least a decade, according to The Guardian, as private companies are tasked with transporting immigrants with little oversight to ensure their safety. In public health news, a U.S. vaccine advisory panel has recommended adults and children no longer receive flu vaccines containing trace amounts of the mercury-containing compound known as thimerosal. That's despite the widespread scientific consensus that the preservative poses no risk to human health and does not cause autism, as a discredited 1998 study claimed. Thursday's decision by the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices came after Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. fired the panel's 17 voting members and replaced them with hand-picked appointees, many of them anti-vaxxers. New York City Mayor Eric Adams announced Thursday he's running for re-election in November as an independent. Adams will face frontrunner Zoran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist who defeated former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo in Tuesday's Democratic mayoral primary. CNN reports Cuomo will not drop out of the race by today's deadline to remove himself from the general election ballot. Instead, Cuomo's name will appear under a ballot line for a newly created third party named Fight and Deliver. And a legendary journalist, Bill Moyers, has died at the age of 91. In the 1960s, Moyers was a founding organizer of the Peace Corps, served as press secretary for President Lyndon Johnson. In 1971, he began an award-winning career as a television broadcaster that would last for over 40 years. During that time, Moyers received over 30 Emmys and countless other prizes. He was elected to the Television Hall of Fame in 1995. Bill Moyers was a frequent guest on Democracy Now!, including this appearance in 2011.
Democracy should be a brake on unbridled greed and power, because capital, like a fire, can turn from a servant, a good servant, into an evil master. And democracy is the brake on my passions and my appetites and your greed and your wealth. And we have to get that equilibrium back.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.